What if I told you all the photos on the screen right now were shot on a camera that came out in 2010? Crazy, right? Now what if I told you they were taken on a camera small enough to fit in a pocket? Not your jacket pocket, but a regular pants pocket. This is the Canon S95, let's dive into it. You may or may not have heard of the term Digicam. To put it simply, Digicams are small point-and-shoot cameras from the late 90s and early 2000s. What constitutes a Digicam is up for debate, so take this with a grain of salt. So why did I get such an old camera? Well, the same reason a lot of people are picking up Digicams right now. Because shooting on a real camera is so much better than using your phone camera. But we'll get into that a bit later. Let's talk about the S95. Considering the S95 is a camera from 2010, it feels surprisingly modern. Not only do you have a ton of controls on the camera to really customize it and use it how you want, but it also has a great body, it's super sleek, and the build quality is fantastic. Unlike new point-and-shoot cameras I've used like the Lumix LX10 or the Rios GR3, which I have videos linked below on both, the S95 feels more durable. Because of its sturdy build and cheaper price point, I don't feel like I have to baby it. I can toss it in a bag or a pocket and I'm good to go. This makes it an awesome daily carry camera. So, how was the experience using the camera? In some ways it was great, and in others it was frustrating. At first, I wanted to treat it like a modern camera, but it isn't one. It may look newer on the surface, but after all, it is a Digicam. So I had to really slow myself down. I couldn't expect to shoot in burst modes. I couldn't expect to not have to wait for the camera to process after each shot. I also had to accept that I needed a card reader on me since there's no Wi-Fi or USB-C for quick transfers on the go. I had to carry extra batteries on me because the older batteries just aren't as reliable as newer ones. None of these things were hard to get used to, but they're worth keeping in mind if you're considering buying a Digicam. That said, I absolutely love the small size and being able to control more settings than you typically get on cameras this compact. However, I wish the buttons and dials had more customization. For example, I could only set the lens control ring, not the rear wheel, so if I wanted to change exposure compensation, I had to switch shooting modes. Speaking of those modes, the S95 has pretty much everything you need from full manual to full auto. I found myself using auto for quick snaps with friends and shutter priority when shooting with a purpose. You can even use the control ring for manual focusing, which is great because the autofocus shows its age. While it's fine for still subjects, the autofocus can be slower or inaccurate in trickier situations like moving subjects or low light. While I may have had a few missed shots because the autofocus was struggling, I never had a missed shot because this camera was too slow. Turning this camera on is super quick, which makes it great for putting it in your pocket, because you don't have to worry about taking it out, waiting for it to turn on and taking your shot, because you take it out, it turns on in an instant and you can get your shot all before you miss that opportunity. Similar to how you would take a photo on your phone, which is great because if you're planning on using the S95 to replace your phone camera, that means the experience will be a bit more similar. There's no delay in taking the camera out of your pocket and getting the shot. Now that we have an idea of how the shooting experience is, let's talk about image quality. In good conditions, I was super happy with the photos I got. The RAW files have a decent amount of detail, not as much as a modern camera, but enough to make edits in post. The JPEGs are also really nice straight out of camera, with vibrant colors and great contrast. However, in less ideal conditions, you start to see the camera's limitations. The smaller, older sensor doesn't handle high ISO wells. The lower the ISO, the better your images will look. While the S95 can shoot up to ISO 3200, anything above 1600 starts to get really noisy. There's a reason auto ISO is capped at 1600. It's annoying, but it makes sense. This is where the on-camera flash comes in handy. It's bright enough to get decent shots in low light, and it gives you that classic early 2000s harsh flash look that everyone wants these days. The look isn't for everyone, but if you like it, you're gonna love using the flash on this camera. Personally, I think a Digicam without a flash like this is a big miss. Now, while the images I'm getting out of this camera are really good looking, they're not the sharpest or most high resolution. The S95 has a 10 megapixel CCD sensor and a small zoom lens, so don't expect insane sharpness. That being said, the photos are sharp enough for most use cases, especially when shooting at the wider focal lengths. I had no problems with the sharpness of the photos, and I was really happy with them. One thing to keep in mind, that a better lens makes a big difference, and the lens on the S95 is definitely better than that small little glass your smartphone has. So, who should get the S95? Lately, I've seen a lot of people asking, I want a dedicated camera that isn't my phone, but I don't want to spend over $200 or so. What should I get? The S95 fits that niche perfectly. It delivers better image quality than most phones, gives you a dedicated camera experience, and gives that early 2000s flash point and shoot look that everyone seems to want. That being said, there are other cameras that fit this niche out there. Some of them are newer, some of them are cheaper, but they all fit that niche. Some examples are the Canon S100, Canon S110, and Canon S120, which are newer versions of the S95. There's also cameras like the Nikon P300. Now, all these cameras are gonna have their pros and cons. I haven't used the other ones personally, so you have to do some research for yourself. However, if you do want me to check out other digicams, let me know in the comments below. Honestly though, the S95 I felt was perfect for me. It gave me that digicam experience while giving me some of the newer features I wanted. It also had that CCD sensor, which a lot of people want in a digicam. Personally, after using one, I didn't see much of a difference between a CCD sensor and a CMOS sensor, but I'm not going to get into that. There's a lot of schools of thoughts on that and a lot of opinions. Personally, I didn't see a difference. I'll just leave it at that. I think the S95 is a great option for someone who wants more control over their camera and their experience, for a beginner who really wants to try using a camera at a really cheap price that has a lot of the features they want while being a good iPhone replacement, or an experienced photographer who wants a phone replacement or wants a really tiny camera to keep in their kit for those situations when they need it. However, if you're just looking for a camera to replace shooting with your phone, something really small and compact, but you don't need features like RAW shooting and customizable buttons and all these modes, then there are other cheaper options with less hype to them. So, how will I be using the S95? Well, it won't be replacing my X100V as my daily carry. As much as I love the size, the image quality and user experience of the X100V is certainly better than the S95. That being said, the S95 is still great in certain situations. It'll be perfect for throwing in a sling bag or a pocket when I'm hanging out with friends or running errands. It'll also be a great camera for long bike rides when I don't want to deal with the bulk of my X100V on a bike. The S95 will also replace a lot of the photos I take on my phone. Why use a phone with its boring typical color science, overprocessed images, poor zoom capabilities, mediocre flash, and fixed aperture when you could use the S95, which has a better zoom lens, more manual controls, solid flash, and a more fun shooting experience. Of course, for video, smartphones will still blow the S95 out of the water. So clearly, I had a blast with S95. While a camera from 2010 may not be for everyone, it's definitely found a place in my gear kit. But will it find a place in yours? Let me know what you think of the S95 and the overall digicam trend in the comments below. For now, go ahead and shoot some photos. Thanks for watching.